The bench in the park. There was a park on the edge of Maple Street, quiet and modest, tucked between an old brick library and a row of townhouses with ivy-covered balconies. It had no playground, no flashy fountain, just a walking path, a scattering of oaks and birches, and a few worn benches facing a duck pond that caught the early morning light just right. Luis Alvarez had claimed one of those benches as his own, though not in any official way. He was 72, retired from a career as a city bus driver, and had lived in the neighborhood for over 40 years. The green bench under the tall elm had become his sanctuary since his wife Elena had passed away 3 years before. He came every morning with a thermos of dark coffee, a paperback book, and a plastic bag filled with crumbs of stale bread he'd saved up for the sparrows and the occasional bold squirrel. Luis didn't say much to people, but he observed everything. The young mother, jogging with a double stroller, the man with the golden retriever, who always let the leash drag, the teenage boy who skated across the park with earbuds in and a scowl permanently etched on his face. Luis's smile was slow and warm, the kind of smile that wasn't loud, but felt sincere, like a reassuring whisper in a noisy world. Then, one Tuesday morning in mid-October, everything shifted. A girl no older than 6 stumbled into the clearing near the pond, sniffling and red-cheeked, her little arms crossed over her chest. She wore a purple coat with one button missing and scuffed rain boots that slapped against the path with each frantic step. Luis noticed her immediately. She circled the pond once, eyes darting, breath hitching in her throat. Her name. She called out softly at first, then louder. "Maya, Maya." Her voice cracked. Luis stood up, gently dusted crumbs from his coat, and walked over slowly so he wouldn't frighten her. "Hey there, Pequeña," he said softly, crouching just enough to look her in the eye. "Are you lost?" The girl looked at him, unsure. "My name's Luis. I come here every day. You look like you could use a tissue." He offered her a napkin from his coat pocket. She took it hesitantly and wiped her nose. "I can't find Maya," she said. "She was with me. We saw a squirrel, and I wanted to see where it went." Luis nodded like he understood, because he did. He'd raised 2 kids. "Do you know Maya's phone number?" The girl blinked. "I think I remember it. Mama made me memorize it." Luis pulled out his flip phone, the kind with big buttons, and handed it to her. She dialed carefully, pressing each number with intense concentration. "Maya!" she cried when the nanny answered. "I'm okay. I'm with a nice man named Luis." Less than 10 minutes later, a frantic young woman came jogging down the path, breathless and wide-eyed. "Ava!" she gasped, scooping the girl into her arms. Luis stood quietly to the side, hands folded in front of him. Maya turned to him, voice trembling with gratitude. "Thank you so much." I only looked away for a second. Luis nodded. "Kids are faster than squirrels," he said with a small smile. Ava tugged at Maya's sleeve and whispered something. The nanny leaned down, listened, then smiled. Ava reached into her coat pocket and pulled out a crumpled piece of paper. It was a drawing, a rainbow stretched across the top, with 2 stick figures on a bench. One was clearly taller and older, the other small with curly hair and bright purple boots. Ava handed it to Luis. "This is you and me," she said proudly. Luis blinked, suddenly caught off guard. His throat tightened in a way he didn't expect. "Thank you," he said. "I'll keep this." And he did. He folded the paper gently and slid it into his wallet, right behind the photo of Elena at the beach, laughing with the sun hat in her hands. Weeks passed. Ava began showing up every Saturday morning with her mother, Amelia. They'd buy cinnamon rolls from the bakery and sit on the bench next to Luis's. Ava would run over first with a coloring book or a new story to share. Luis would put away his novel, take a sip from his thermos, and lean in to listen like whatever she said was the most important thing in the world. Over time, Amelia started talking to Luis too. She was a nurse at the nearby hospital, recently divorced, juggling night shifts and kindergarten drop-offs. She seemed grateful for the quiet companionship and Luis's easy warmth. They didn't talk much about personal things, at least not at first. But slowly, stories began to slip into the conversation about Elena, about bus routes and passengers he used to know by name, about the time Ava tried to convince a squirrel to be her pet. Years went by. Ava grew taller. Her rain boots became sneakers, then high tops. The stick figure drawings became elaborate watercolors. She called Luis her friend, even when other kids teased her for talking to the old guy in the park. Luis became something more than just a bench sitter to her. He became a fixture in her life. He helped her practice spelling. He taught her to fold perfect paper boats. When she turned 10, he gave her a book of Spanish poems with words highlighted in yellow. "The ones I think you'll like best." Then, when Luis fell ill, briefly, one winter, Ava and Amelia brought soup and blankets to his apartment. They made sure he had groceries. They even decorated his window with paper snowflakes. He recovered, of course. "Takes more than the flu to get rid of me," he joked. Time, as it does, kept moving forward. On the morning of her high school graduation, Ava wore a cap too big for her head and nerves too big for her heart. Before heading to the ceremony, she and her mom made one stop the bench. Luis was already there, as always, thermos in hand. He had a cardigan on over his collared shirt, and a newspaper folded neatly beside him. Ava walked up, tears already welling. "I brought something," she said. It was a frame drawing the original rainbow image, carefully restored. But now the bench sat under a tall elm, much like the real one. Flowers bloomed around it, and above the rainbow were the words, "Thank you for finding me." Luis held the frame for a long moment, his voice, usually steady, cracked. "I should be the one thanking you," he said. "You brought me back to life." They sat there for a while, side by side, watching the pond as the ducks made ripples in the morning light. Luis still went to the bench every morning, but now others knew his name. Sometimes kids waved as they passed. Sometimes nurses from the hospital greeted him with a smile, thanks to stories Amelia had shared. And sometimes, not always, but often a young woman with a satchel of college textbooks would stop by, just to sit quietly, hand him a cinnamon roll, and smile. Because some people enter your life like a gust of wind, sudden, chaotic, and fleeting. But others like Ava and Luis arrive like sunrise, quietly, slowly, and with the promise of something warmer.